Greenwood High School sat on the edge of town, a brick-and-mortar fortress that held secrets, darker than the shadowy woods surrounding it. To outsiders, it was just another school, filled with bright-eyed students and hard-working teachers. But to those within its walls, Greenwood was a breeding ground for chaos, temptation, and the occult. At the heart of Greenwood's secret, darkness was a group of students who called themselves the Circle. No one knew exactly how many were part of it, but it was said to be led by Celeste, a striking senior with jet-black hair and an icy demeanor that sent shivers down spines. Celeste and her closest followers, Margot, Talia, and Danielle, and another faction called the Shadow Pack, a gang of rebellious boys led by Liam, a fiercely charismatic junior whose raw, untamed abilities threatened to rival. They were feared and revered in equal measure. Celeste and her circle had reigned unchallenged for years. Their rituals in the woods gave them power that terrified both students and staff. But Liam and his Shadow Pack had recently emerged as a force to be reckoned with. By day, they acted like ordinary students, though their behavior was often disruptive. They'd giggle during lessons, pass notes, or pretend to faint to get out of tests. By night, however, they slipped into the woods, carrying candles and chanting in a language that no one dared to understand. And the boys, they weren't just ordinary troublemakers. They too possessed a kind of magic one, born from chaos and instinct. Rather than the structured rituals of the Circle, their abilities manifested in ways that were wild and unpredictable. Objects levitating during fights, lights flickering whenever they were angry, and whispers of invisibility during their pranks. For months, the tension between the two factions simmered. The Circle saw the Shadow Pack as crude, unrefined, and dangerous. The Shadow Pack viewed the Circle as arrogant manipulators, obsessed with power for power's sake. With that, not everyone fell under their spells. Emily, a shy sophomore with a knack for literature and a deep sense of faith, refused to bow to their pressure. The rivalry came to a head when both factions targeted the same student, Emily. Emily had been targeted since the first week of school, by the Circles and the Shadow Pack. One morning, when Celeste noticed her in the library, quietly reading a book about ancient myths, she said, in her tone silky and inviting, "You'd be a perfect addition to our group." But Emily shook her head. "I don't want any part of whatever you're doing." Emily wanted no part of Greenwood's power struggles. Shy and deeply faithful, she had rebuffed Celeste's attempts to recruit her into the Circle. But she had also caught Liam's attention. "Stay away from the Circle." Liam walked to her and warned her after Celeste had left. His grey eyes smoldered with intensity. "They'll only destroy you." "I'm not joining anyone," Emily replied, pulling her book closer. "That's not how this works," Liam said, his tone softening. "They'll keep coming for you until you choose a side. Let us protect you. I don't need powers or protection. I just want to be left alone." But neither side was willing to let her go. Emily, filled with fear, that night called her mother, though she tried to hide it. Her mother heard the trembling in her voice. "I know things are hard, my love," her mother said gently. "But remember, no matter what darkness surrounds you, God is with you. I'll pray for you tonight." As Emily lay in bed, clutching her Bible, her mother knelt in their living room, whispering prayers for protection. Unbeknownst to either of them, the room filled with a soft, unseen light, pushing back the darkness that had clung to Emily since entering Greenwood. The first clash began during a stormy Friday night. when Celeste and her circle gathered in the woods for a ritual, meant to bind Emily's soul to their cause. The air hummed with energy as they chanted around a glowing sigil carved into the earth. Suddenly, the wind picked up, snuffing out their candles. A deep growl echoed through the trees, and the boys of the Shadow Pack emerged from the darkness, led by Liam. "This ends tonight," Liam said, his voice cutting through the night. "You don't control this school anymore." Celeste smirked. "Foolish boys. You think your raw, undisciplined power can stand against us? You'll regret this." With a flick of her wrist, Celeste summoned a wave of energy that rippled through the clearing, knocking several of the boys to the ground. But Liam countered, slamming his fist into the earth. The ground cracked, disrupting the circle's ritual and scattering their sigil. Chaos erupted, the battle between the circle and the Shadow Pack was unlike anything Greenwood had ever seen. Celeste and her girls relied on precision and coordination, weaving spells that formed shields, binding chains, and fireballs that lit up the dark woods. The boys fought with raw aggression. Liam's lieutenant, Jox, could manipulate shadows, making tendrils of darkness lash out like whips. Another boy, Sam, moved so fast he seemed to blur, dodging Celeste's attacks with ease. Emily watched from the edge of the clearing, torn between fear and awe. The woods seemed alive, crackling with energy as trees splintered. The ground heaved, and the air shimmered with power. Celeste focused her energy on Liam, chanting a spell that made the ground beneath him erupt in flames. But Liam leaped into the air, landing in front of her with a smirk. "You're not as untouchable as you think," he said, hurling a ball of condensed energy at her. The blast sent Celeste sprawling, but she quickly recovered, her eyes glowing with fury. "This isn't over," she hissed, as the battle raged on. Emily felt a surge of emotion she couldn't explain. She was tired of being a pawn, of being chased by both sides. She had always thought of herself as powerless, but now, standing in the middle of this chaos, she realized she had a choice. "Stop!" she screamed, stepping into the clearing. The energy in the air stilled for a moment as both factions turned to her. "You're fighting over me, but I won't be owned by anyone," Emily said, her voice trembling but resolute. "Your powers are tearing this school apart. Don't you see what you've become?" Her words struck a chord, even with Celeste and Liam. For a brief moment, the two leaders locked eyes, their shared ambition faltering in the face of Emily's raw humanity. But before either could respond, the ground beneath them began to shake. The disrupted sigil at the center of the clearing glowed faintly. Pulsing with energy, Celeste's eyes widened. The ritual, it's unstable. The unleashed energy from the disrupted ritual spiraled out of control, creating a vortex of light and shadow. Celeste and Liam, realizing the danger, joined forces to contain it. Emily, standing at the eye of the storm, felt something stir within her, a warmth that seemed to push back the darkness. She began to pray, her voice clear and steady despite the chaos around her. As her prayer grew louder, the vortex shrank, the wild energy dissolving into the night. When the dust settled, Celeste and Liam stood side by side, their faces pale. "You saved us," Celeste said, her voice laced with disbelief. "No," Emily replied. "I stopped you from destroying yourselves." The clash between the Circle and the Shadow Pack marked the beginning of a fragile truce. Both factions realized the danger of their unchecked powers, and Greenwood High found a semblance of peace. Celeste and Liam still vied for influence, but their battles were quieter, more restrained, and Emily, once a powerless outsider, became the school's unlikely voice of reason, a reminder that true strength didn't come from powers, but from courage and faith. Though the shadows of Greenwood never fully disappeared, they were no longer all-consuming, and for Emily, that was enough.